You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
Welcome to a very special Thanksgiving encore of Only Malware in the building. In this episode, we dive into today's most compelling threats and explore what makes information sharing actually work. From public-private partnerships to actionable intelligence, so organizations can stay ahead of emerging risks. We hope you enjoy this encore of Only Malware in the building. Thank you for listening, and for those celebrating, have a safe and happy Thanksgiving.
What's your 2 a.m. security worry? Is it, do I have the right controls in place? Maybe, are my vendors secure? Or the one that really keeps you up at night, how do I get out from under these old tools and manual processes? That's where Vanta comes in. Vanta automates the manual work so you can stop sweating over spreadsheets, chasing audit evidence, and filling out endless questionnaires. Their trust management platform continuously monitors your systems, centralizes your data, and simplifies your security at scale. And it fits right into your workflows, using AI to streamline evidence collection, flag risks, and keep your program audit ready, all the time. With Vanta, you get everything you need to move faster, scale confidently, and finally, get back to sleep. Get started at vanta.com/cyber. That's VANTA.com/cyber.
Introducing Meta Ray-Ban Display, the world's most advanced AI glasses. With a full-color display built into the lens of the glasses, it's there when you need it and gone when you don't. Send and receive messages, translate or caption live conversations, collaborate with Meta AI, and more. Be one of the first to try Meta Ray-Ban Display. Visit meta.com/Meta Ray-Ban Display to book a demo and find your pair.
If we knew more about our sleep, what would we do differently? Would we go to bed at a consistent time or take steps to reduce interruptions to our sleep? With the all-new Sleep Score, Apple Watch measures your bedtime consistency, interruptions, and sleep duration. Then, every morning it combines these factors into an easy-to-understand score from 1 to 100. So you'll know how to take the quality of your sleep from good to excellent. Introducing the new Sleep Score on Apple Watch. iPhone 11 or later required.
Follow signs for I-95 South.
You realize we're late again, right? Selena's gonna kill us.
I told you I had to do a dip check. You can't show up to the Fishy Awards without the proper dip representation.
You brought like half the grocery store.
Keith, preparation is key. Nobody likes a dry chip.
Dude, can I have a chip?
Absolutely not.
Turn left onto Diagon Alley. Your destination will be on your left.
You two are unbelievable. I told you to leave early. Now we're going to be late, and we're nominated.
We did leave early, then Dave decided to run a full audit on condiments.
Quality assurance is everyone's responsibility.
If we win tonight and I can't give my acceptance speech, I'm blaming you two.
Dave, check to see if they're covering the awards pre-show on the radio.
Hey, this is pretty catchy.
I mean, it is, but it's not what we're looking for. Keep scrolling.
3 of the 0 days are actively being exploited.
If you like me. Well, hello there, and welcome back to American Top 40.
Doesn't sound like it's on yet. Dave, can I please have a chip?
No, stop asking me.
I had a temp job out of college.
I don't think they're covering the red carpet yet. Maybe we'll make it after all.
Dave, the clock literally says we're 20 minutes late.
But in cybersecurity time, that's basically on schedule.
Exactly. Besides, we've got great tunes, solid company, and 6 dips in the back seat. What could go wrong?
You know, when I agreed to come tonight, I didn't think we'd be driving your antique mobile, Dave.
Antique? I will have you know this is vintage, classic, timeless.
timeless, like a typewriter and an office full of laptops.
Hey, this typewriter has gotten us through a lot of traffic safely.
Hopefully that's true for tonight, too.
Dave, if you're going to be eating while driving, at least you could give me one chip.
No, these are ratioed, 1 chip per dip swirl. System integrity.
Dave, both hands on the wheel.
Relax, it's a controlled dip environment.
You're actually gatekeeping the dip?
Yes, chain of custody.
Just one.
Keith, let go of the chip.
Then give me one.
Guys, you two are going to make us late and headline the traffic report.
You owe me guac.
Worth it.
All right, no more fighting, you two. Let's just ride the rest of the way in silence. Next year, I'm taking an Uber. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Only Malware in the Building. Today, with my co-hosts, Dave and Keith, we are going to be diving into information sharing and public-private partnerships. It is November. We're giving thanks. We're thinking about the ways that we are thankful for our different partnerships and different information that we're able to share back and forth with the wonderful, wonderful cybersecurity community. So why don't we go ahead and kick us off? And part of the reason why we're inspired to do this episode is because, Keith, I just recently saw you. This is very exciting.
Yeah, it was amazing. So we're halfway around the world. We're at Europol in the Netherlands, and all of a sudden we're at a conference, and I'm looking across the room, and I'm like, hey, there's Selena.
Exactly. Hey, there's Keith. And I had no idea that you were going to be there. It's one of these lovely little kismet moments that are happening all the time at conferences. And one of the topics that you were talking about and speaking about at the conference was how public-private partnerships work and how they can actually contribute to doing things like takedowns or impacting operations or sharing with the private sector to be more resilient and secure.
Yeah, and everybody's always talking about sharing public-private alliances, sharing threat information. And so, when we were getting together, Dave, we were like, we should talk about this on some of the obstacles, good ways to be able to share information, some of the concerns that people have, and really kind of the right way to do it. Because if you don't do it right, it's just kind of worthless. So Selena and I, we got together and we're like, hey, this sounds like a good topic. And I'm sure, Dave, you probably have a lot of people that come on CyberWire that talk about public-private alliances and sharing information as well.
We do. I'm curious, though. Like, my take is that public-private partnerships are kind of like karaoke. Everybody's enthusiastic until it's their turn.
I will have you know, I am enthusiastic even when it is my turn for karaoke.
Yeah.
So.
Well, truth be told, me too. In fact, they have a hard time pulling the mic away from me.
I know. We got to vaudeville you. Cane off.
It seems like everybody wants everyone else to go first when it comes to information sharing. Is that an accurate assessment?
Oh, yeah, I think so. And then, sometimes the government they're a little too broad on what does information sharing actually look like. Nobody wants, when somebody comes in and goes, hey, we're the government, we're here to help, now give us all your information. People are like, whoa, wait a second, backtrack a little bit. How are we going to do this properly? So we thought we can kind of cover maybe some of the genesis of how this started and where things are going and kind of how, if you want to get involved in information sharing, maybe how you could start with your company or just you as a researcher.
Yeah. Can we start with some of the history here? I mean, Keith, your time back with the FBI, were you with the agency at the outset of some of these programs?
From an FBI perspective, one of the main information sharing places that they set up was called the National Cyber Forensic and Training Alliance in my hometown of Pittsburgh, of course. It's my boss at the time named Dan Larkin. He was kind of a visionary, and he was the national white-collar crime and cyber supervisor at the Pittsburgh field office. And he was looking at Pittsburgh at the time and said, well, we have some good banks like PNC and Mellon Bank. We had the CERT at that time. That was the CERT the main cert in the United States there at Carnegie Mellon. You had great universities at the University of Pittsburgh, Carnegie Mellon, Penn State. And then down the road, you had the Internet Crime Complaint Center, which was receiving all these fraud complaints. And so he was saying, well, how could we kind of bring all those things together and kind of tackle this emerging thing, of cybercrime? So what he was able to do was set up a nonprofit, which became the NCFTA, and kind of had to be like this neutral space. So it wasn't owned by the government. It wasn't owned by any company or any academic institution. And then this way you can kind of come together and share cyber threat intelligence.
What was the response to that? Were people, did people embrace it, or was there a certain degree of skepticism?
Well, naturally, there's always skepticism from sharing with the government, and what are the controls? Because most companies, they're thinking, well, I can't disclose my customer information or the PII, or I don't want to talk about a intrusion that we had and be on the front page of the New York Times, saying, hey, we have bad security controls. So there's a lot of animosity or concern really at the beginning of doing that, and to make sure that you kind of do it right. And Selena, you want to kind of like talk about like some of the concerns, that you would have of sharing things with the government as well.
Yeah, so I think when it comes to information sharing, there are a few ways that you can think about it from both of an independent contributor and threat researcher perspective, as well as like a company and private company perspective. And I think, a lot of times people are definitely concerned with sharing information because they don't want any PII to be leaked, and they don't necessarily want to get involved in a case or something like that where it kind of gets big. And then also too, people kind of just want to deal with it themselves, right? Like we want to keep this in house. We don't really want to talk about it. We don't want anyone knowing our business, right? Like no one wants to be a center of gossip, whether it's about a cyber attack or, how many dips you ate at a party, Dave.
Hey now.
So that's part of it. And also too, I think that the question of what is actionable and how is this information being used? I think historically there hasn't necessarily been a broad understanding of, okay, what is happening with this information and what's going on with it? What is happening with this information? If I give it to you, what is it doing? But what I think has been really cool over the last few years is there has been a lot more visible public-private partnership and collaboration. And one of the things that I like pointing to is Operation Endgame, for example, where there was a lot of private sector companies, like security companies, who collaborated with international law enforcement to do some very major takedowns of some of the most prominent botnets and loaders that would lead to ransomware. That would not have happened without everyone coming together and sharing their information. In the private sector, every company has unique visibility. No one is looking at all of the same information. And that goes the same thing for the private sector, right? The US government sees a lot of different things than what the private sector does. At Proof Point, we see tons of initial access. That's where we live and breathe, and email, and my team in particular is email specific. And so, we're seeing initial access and then we go dark. So we don't have any post-exploitation visibility. And that's why it's important for us to collaborate with other threat researchers, for example, and other companies. Like, for example, we've collaborated with the DFIR report, where they see the full attack chain and they can say like, okay, you guys saw this initial access piece. Here's what we saw as, follow-on compromises, and here's what it led to. And I think that, oftentimes when we think about information sharing, we think about it behind closed doors. But one of the most important and useful ways of information sharing is making stuff public and saying, here's my research on this. Here's all this information. I'm, putting it up on GitHub, or I'm putting it up in a blog. And I'm sharing this information to the broader community so it can be like, okay, I can take action on this regardless of whether I am in law enforcement or if I'm a private sector person or if I'm just an independent researcher that wants to learn more about this particular threat.
Yeah, I think it's really important, like you had mentioned, Operation Endgame, that you really focus on something specific that you want to share on, because it's not like, hey, we want all your data. Nobody has the time to go through all the data anyways. But if you know that, that this particular piece of malware is going to affect a number of people, then you can pull those teams together and share that specific information. So if somebody has that initial access, maybe somebody knows how to reverse engineer the malware and come up with a solution to bring it down. I got to share one of my favorite stories, since you had talked about with Operation Endgame. When we did the core flood takedown, which we brought a whole bunch of people to do that, it was so funny. We were practicing on how we were going to, do this takedown and eliminate it. And we were going to send this stop command from one of the C2s that we took over. We were testing it. And we had to make sure there weren't going to be blue screens of death all around. So we had to go to the Attorney General and present our solution. And he's like, okay, well, it sounds really good, but just remember, guys, if you break it, you bought it. And that was the last thing. And then he signed off on our board to be able to do it. So I'll never forget that.
Oh, wow.
If you break it, you bought it.
So what are the practical implications of this? If I am an organization, let's start with the private sector. I'm in a private organization, and I recognize as, let's say, a security professional within that organization that this is worthwhile. How do I make that case to the powers that be, to my board, to my boss, that us putting time and effort into this sort of collaboration is going to pay dividends for us as an organization?
Yeah, so I think first is, if you were going to be messaging your board or trying to get the lawyers on board, you need to talk about why it's a problem to your company and why being part of the greater good will actually help impact and actually make your company safer. Everybody only has so many cycles in the day. And now you're telling me you want to spend extra cycles now working overtime to kind of help the government or help this team, So what does it really mean to the company? Why is it a problem? And also, if you're part of the takedown, you may get your name on, the takedown press release that you helped. So that could be good publicity on that your company is part of the greater good of policing the internet out there. So I think that's kind of where I would start first. And then you could start talking about what types of information that you could share. And I think the government looks at it, from a standpoint is share whatever makes you comfortable. And then, let's build that relationship, that trust, and then share more whenever you feel more comfortable. But really just kind of start out sharing what you can as part of this project and lend your expertise. And let's see if we can't make, a collective win.
Well, I think so too. There's other options, right? Like, I think a lot of times we think about information sharing as, I'm going to share with the government. There's also, for example, like nonprofits, like the Cyber Threat Alliance is like a collective for information sharing. Can be very beneficial, right? Because you're sharing and then you're also getting information back before it gets public, often in many cases. And so you can, be prepared. And so you can add that additional layer of preparation within your own product and services, or, from a researcher perspective, like this is what I have to be focusing on, or like, no, that's coming up. From more of like a public-private partnership, there's also ways to do like notifications. If it's like really open and collaborative, be like, oh, have you seen this? Or like, it's a way to kind of say like, is this unique to me and my organization? Or is this a broader problem that's affecting all of the industry? And it can help kind of be a way for collective defense where we have a better understanding. Certainly all of the ISACs, information sharing ISACs that are set up for different industries, that is a very, very useful way for organizations to get involved in information sharing and getting to know their peers within the industry. As a researcher and from that perspective, one of the best things about information sharing is it helps me get to know other people within the community and like what they sort of specialize in, and like what do you know about that could potentially help with my research or with community defense, and how can we share this information? How can I operationalize it within my organization or with you? Or, we stumble across something and it's like, hey, do you know anyone that might be able to help me with this or that might find this very beneficial? Even when things are made public, there can be a big lack of awareness. So even having that avenue for saying, hey, I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of this as a way to communicate and have like a central repository of information. An example of like from like a tactical intelligence perspective, like MITRE ATT&CK. Having an existing framework where intelligence is shared, really condensed down into actionable pieces that all of the community can access with MITRE ATT&CK. It's like, we see this technique, we're adding it to our database, we have defenses that are available, and it's a really like a one-stop shop for you to be like, okay, I see this happening, I need to know how to take next steps and next actions. I'm going to consult this database, or I'm going to consult this group that I'm in as a way to get more information about this and how to protect myself.
You're right on key on that, what you were just saying, because as an FBI agent, what I wanted is I wanted industry to tell me what I should be working on. There are so many different things that you could be working on out there, and you only have so many cases that you could work. So if you're telling me that, that this botnet or this ransomware group is the worst of the worst, and that's where I should be focusing on, that really helps me with my targeting. And then to be able to leverage the expertise from the industry working groups, because, everybody has that different layers of visibility that could help me to focus on where I need to do search warrants, or where I need to send legal process, or just to really understand the threat and get victim notification out. So really, as an agent, the industry is really the eyes and ears of where I want to focus.
From phishing to ransomware, cyber threats are constant. But with NordLayer, your defense can be too. NordLayer brings together secure access and advanced threat protection in a single, seamless platform. It helps your team spot suspicious activity before it becomes a problem by blocking malicious links and scanning downloads in real time, preventing malware from reaching your network. It's quick to deploy, easy to scale, and built on zero trust principles, so only the right people get access to the right resources. Get 28% off on a yearly plan at nordlayer.com/cyberwiredaily with code cyberwire-28. That's nordlayer.com/cyberwiredaily, code cyberwire-28. That's valid through December 10th, 2025. Most environments trust far more than they should, and attackers know it. ThreatLocker solves that by enforcing default deny at the point of execution. With ThreatLocker Allow listing, you stop unknown executables cold. With ring fencing, you control how trusted applications behave. And with ThreatLocker DAC, Defense Against Configurations, you get real assurance that your environment is free of misconfigurations and clear visibility into whether you meet compliance standards. ThreatLocker is the simplest way to enforce zero-trust principles without the operational pain. It's powerful protection that gives CISOs real visibility, real control, and real peace of mind. ThreatLocker makes zero-trust attainable, even for small security teams. See why thousands of organizations choose ThreatLocker to minimize alert fatigue, stop ransomware at the source, and regain control over their environments. Schedule your demo at threatlocker.com/N2K today. How much of this goes on behind the scenes, the back channels, the group chats on Signal? How important are those in this whole effort?
Oh, it goes on all the time, and it's all built on trust, so it's really building these personal relationships and understand who does what in what company. There's like when we were at Europol, it was like a high school reunion. We're just going through and it's just like, hey, I haven't seen you in ages. We haven't caught up in real life in a long time. It's such a small community, even though you think like all the security researchers are out there, there's thousands of them, but like everybody knows everybody. And so it was just really good to get together and you hear what people are working on, and you may say, well, hey, I may have something that could help you out. And so it's just like this, build on personal relationships.
Well, and I think, too, it can be a catalyst for furthering an understanding of cybersecurity in general. And Dave, I don't know if you hear this from guests on your podcast, but I think a lot of times people in our industry are a little bit frustrated with the sort of lack of understanding of cybersecurity issues from law enforcement or policy or like decision makers or even within companies, right? Like, is that something that you hear a lot where it's still kind of this like little bit of a black box where there's a gap between the people that are doing the work and like knowledgeable about things and then the people that are making the decisions, whether it's policy or, business decision making. And I think that that's where information sharing can really help close that gap.
Yeah, for sure. I tend to refer to it as a translation layer, like between the folks who are talking tech and the folks who are talking business risk. And there has to be somebody who speaks both of those languages, which is like the old joke about the UK and the US, that is two nations separated by a common language. And I feel like somehow...
I'm experiencing that right now over in London, Dave.
Quite.
Right. Belt or braces. So there's those kinds of things. I'm curious how much of a responsibility we think the government has to enable these things, because as we're recording this, we are still in the midst of a government shutdown, and as part of that, the CISA 2025 legislation, which provided coverage for protection for organizations who are sharing from liability, is in limbo right now. It's technically expired, and I think a lot of organizations are still in good faith sharing, hoping that it will be reinstated retroactively. But I think it points to the fact that organizations need these reassurances from the government that they can share without risk of repercussions.
Yeah, that's important. Like, because when I was at the FBI, I thought everybody shared with the government willingly. And then I went to EY, and it was just like every time, we were doing an incident response or whatever, it was like, nope, we're not giving this. We're not calling the FBI. We're not calling the Secret Service, So those...
Keith, put down that phone.
Yeah. So it is... those protections in place are just vital because without them, probably 90% of legal counsel is going to say, no, hey, yeah, we want to do the greater good, but at the same time, we have to protect our company. We need to make sure that we're not liable for anything. Once those protections are in place, we'll continue to do it, but it's really essential that gets taken care of.
Well, and I think right now, we're in a time of a lot of success of public-private partnerships, and seeing some of the wins, I think, has been really great, especially when it comes to cybercrime. So I think historically, there's been a lot of focus on espionage and nation-state activity and spying and that sort of thing from a collective defense perspective. But I think right now, over the last couple of years, it's been really heartening, I think, to see the information sharing and the collective defense and collaboration from a cybercrime perspective. And it's led to some really big wins. Even if it's sort of like a temporary disruption, and if you look at, for example, like the Luma Stealer takedown recently, with Microsoft and law enforcement collaborating on that, it did have a really big impact. It was, it was a little bit limited, and, Luma Stealer kind of bounced back a little bit. But even those cases can have significant impact on the operators themselves, the ecosystem, sowing distrust, having these questions in the threat actors' minds of like, is this really worth it to me? Having to impose costs, like literal financial costs, as well as the time cost and the reputation cost can be massive. So right now, public-private partnership is essential in combating everything from cybercrime to, this sort of nation-state activity. And threat actors are not slowing down. They're not going anywhere. And it's really important for organizations to feel confident in sharing that, critical threat intelligence, because really collective defense from both a national security perspective, but as well as like a business risk and resilience perspective, is really, really a cornerstone of that is in, information sharing and making sure that everyone is aware of these threats.
Yeah, and it's important, that nobody has complete visibility. So you have to share the information in order to get the complete picture. I know you had mentioned, that there are a number of information sharing on the cyber crime side, but there is one that called the National Defense Cyber Alliance down in Huntsville that is really put together for those national security attacks as well. So it's not as widely known as maybe some of the other like ISACs and the NCFTA and others, but it is kind of sprouting and growing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Selena, I'm curious, you and your colleagues at Proofpoint publish a lot of research. How much do you find that sparks conversations with other folks in the industry? When you publish something, do you get a bunch of responses from that and say, hey, I saw what you published and we think we might have something related here?
Oh, all the time. It happens all the time. It's great. And that's why I like publishing stuff. It's because, we want more information. So, publishing information begets more information. It's fantastic. It doesn't happen like with literally everything we publish, but almost everything we publish, I have to say. And in a lot of cases, we'll reach out to our information sharing partners ahead of time, be like, do you guys have any visibility into this? What are you seeing? How are you responding to this? So recently, earlier this year, my colleague Ola and I published some details on remote monitoring and management abuse as being delivered as first stage payload. So we see, of course, a lot of the first stage email threats being, RMMs being dropped that way, which was very unique. But we're like, okay, but what happens next? And then also, are these RMMs that are being delivered as a first stage payload, are they different than the ones that are being used post-compromise? So once a threat actor actually has access to an environment, are they using the same tools or different tools to move laterally? We reached out to our partners at the DFA report, at Red Canary, other folks in the industry to be like, hey, what are you seeing? And how is that tying into the RMM narrative and the conversation? And so we ended up, publishing some details, and Red Canary has some fantastic information about RMMs that they also have published and made available. And then certainly, with DFA report, they do deep dives into the attack chains and say, okay, looking at this. And a lot of times when a company will publish information about a particular attack chain that's happened post-compromise, we can go back to our data and be like, oh, we saw this activity. Like, this is related to this threat actor from, this August 2025 campaign. So we know now that this RMM is dropping this particular malware because of information that was shared from the community. And so it's really important to not only, be open to collaboration, but also, if you can, share what you can with people. And what I have found is that fellow researchers are so open. It's really great because I think, most of us are in this industry because we care and because we want to do good and we want to have, a safe world and contribute to collective defense, whether that's, we work for the government or whether that's we work for a business or whether that's we run our own security consultancy, right? Like, I think a lot of us are driven by that community idea of, we want to protect each other. And so I think that really shows how beneficial it can be when people do push stuff out there and be open with sharing back.
Keith, what about moderation? I mean, did you ever run into folks who were kind of oversharing and you had to ask them to dial it back? Or, stop calling me.
No, I don't think that ever happened. Everything in moderation, though, Dave. Just remember, that's the key of life. Everything in moderation.
Except for dips.
Yeah. But no, I think, again, just, share what you can. And I mean, I guess sometimes, you got a little too much, and I would say back to somebody, I got enough right now. Just, I'm good with what you got, what you gave me, but I'm good right now. But I don't think that happens too frequently. If you're sharing, especially when you're as part of like the NCFTA or the CDA or, those ISAC, if you're sharing that information, chances are, let's say you're a financial institution and you're sharing threat information that you're seeing, chances are another financial institution is going to get hit in a month from now. So that could help them with their defense. Because maybe if you're a big top 5 bank, you're going to see the attacks first, and then the smaller credit unions are going to see those. And 8 to 10 months. So if you're sharing that information, you're really helping the greater good, down the line as well.
Where do you suppose we're headed here? What's the future look like when it comes to information sharing?
The one thing that I just want to say is, we've been doing this a long time. Over 20 years we've been sharing information. And my one pet peeve, Dave, is that I go to a lot of conferences and new people that have come that have just been around for 1 year or 2 years, they go, hey, we need to do information sharing. But it's like, we've been doing this 20 years. We're not reinventing the wheel. So I am hoping that in the future, in these next couple of years, that people will be talking about it, that this is just part of how we do business on the internet and how we do business as the white hats in the greater good. And this isn't something new that we need to talk about all the time, because it's just being like air. You're just breathing and you're doing it naturally. So that is my hope. I hope we get there.
Well, I think right now is a very interesting time for information sharing, Dave, as you mentioned. So my hope is that people continue to realize the value of this, and whether or not there are roadblocks in place from existing means of information sharing, or whether we continue as we have been. Either way, I mean, I think to Keith's point, just making it part of how we do business. And also, I think, too, having a better understanding and seeing the outcomes. Because I think oftentimes people are a little bit hesitant to be like, oh, well, what are we doing sharing information, and not understanding some of the outcomes that can be very, very beneficial. And so I think not just sharing information, but sharing what happens and how you have used it, and how you took action on it, and how it protected your organization can actually provide a lot more benefit and can, make people more engaged with it. Because, I actually always joke when I go to a conference or when I'm listening to a podcast or whatever, it's like, if someone says public-private partnerships, I'm like, drink, like bingo, it's like, okay, keyword, buzzword. Because oftentimes it's like, okay, well, so what? Like it's a public-private partnership is like, it exists, but if it's not leading to actionable information and actionable information sharing, and you're not seeing the results of it, it can seem like this buzzword or this like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, we're just going to fill a panel to talk about it at a conference. So I think when it comes to like the future of information sharing the outcomes, and I think, some of the big cybercrime takedowns that have happened that, have all those logos and have all those names of the people that have been involved is huge, because you're like, okay, this is the reality. This is what happens with the information that we share.
Yeah, communication is the key, because people want to know that what they're sharing is actually being put to good use and it's useful, because then that will build that trust and say, hey, I want to do more, I want to do this more. Nobody wants to just share information to a black hole, just like, hey, it's just going in there and I don't know whether my data is good or not, or what I'm providing is going to the greater good. So I think communication and messaging that is really key going forward as well.
The greater good.
The greater good.
The greater good. Every time I just have to say it like that.
Actionable intelligence is much better than all of the decorative intelligence that's lying around, right?
Absolutely. Yes. You don't want to just have intelligence that you can hang in your office or on your mantelpiece.
Caring is sharing.
Are we going to talk about decorative intelligence for Christmas then on our next podcast?
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Deck the halls with threat intelligence.
Yes. Yeah. Fa la 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 la.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. This is one of the things that I am very passionate about. Keith, I know you are as well. And Dave, you are basically an information sharing group yourself as the podcast host of Cyberwire.
Yes,
you do intelligence distribution and communication that are very, very vital as well. So, that's actually one part of information sharing, is communicating out to a massive audience and hoping, people take action on it. So thank you everybody for tuning in as always. And we hope you enjoyed this episode of Only Malware in the Building, and we will see you next time.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Wishing you a very happy half-off holiday because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. And Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day, yeah?
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.